Hello and welcome to this honest review of the Camp Snap 8. This is a really interesting camera and I'm going to give you my honest impressions of this camera in this review. Coming up in this video, I'm going to show you the footage you can get with this camera, what to expect and all the different modes this camera has. But before I do that, I'm going to talk about why this camera appealed to me when I have many more cameras that are so much better. Now, before I made YouTube videos, I used to make short films. I'd write scripts, I'd do all the filming, I'd rope all my friends in, I'd do the directing. And I always wanted to enter something called the Straight 8 competition. Now, the Straight 8 competition is where you have a 8mm camera and all you do is you film every little part sequentially and then you send off your film to be developed and that gets developed into the film and that's it. It's then entered into the film festival. So in the Straight 8 competition you don't get to edit your film, you don't get to reshoot certain scenes. What you shoot is what ends up in the film and that's always appealed to me. So you do all your scenes in order and then that's your film over and done with. So when the Camp Snap 8 came out, it just seemed really similar to working with 8mm film, but of course without the expense and without the processing time required to get Super 8 film processed. So no doubt this is going to be cheaper than using actual Super 8 cameras and films, but does this represent good value to you? So I went out and I made a little sort of vlog, I did a little journey, and I'm going to show that to you now. So I'm out in the middle of nowhere, I'm going on a walk and I'm going to be testing out this camera, and I'm going to be going all the way over there because over there is a cafe and I'm going to stop in there and have my lunch. I'm going to be testing the camera in a variety of conditions. I'm going to stick with the color profile of standard and I'm going to stick in 16:9, but I will be going through dark areas and I will be going through very sunny areas so you can look at how the camera performs. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test the zoom. So I'm going to test the zoom now. We're going to see lots of dog walkers on this trip because this area is full of dog walkers, so probably see a lot more dog walkers. So we're now in a forested bit, so we've got some quite challenging lighting here because over here it's quite sunny. If we move around and pan around, you'll see that it is quite dark where we are with sudden bursts of light. That's going to mean it's quite challenging and we'll see how well this does. Don't think it's going to do brilliantly. So we're back into the sun and it's really nice to be back into the sun because it is a cold day. You can see some really impressive trees here that are very tall. Now I'm going to be shooting into the sun to see how well this camera handles shooting into the sun. I don't think it's going to handle it particularly well. Let me know what you think in the comments because based on the LCD I'm looking through for the viewfinder, it's not particularly clear if it's handling it particularly well. So we've now got to the downhill bit, so I've got to negotiate this first downhill before a big steep uphill. Another really dark spot that's backlit. This will be very challenging to film for this camera. Hopefully it turns out okay. So we've come out on a road, so I'm going to be following this sign up to the visitor centre and I'm going to go up on the road. We have made it to the top and we can go to the viewing area. Before I called it a cafe, but it has a cafe, but it's also just a viewing area. There's a great view of the lake below. So this is the really good view we get of the lake. You can see in the centre of the frame there's a bird feeder. This is really good for coming to watch birds feed and just look at the birds and get a really nice view. Now it's time for lunch. So clearly this is designed to appeal to a sort of retro aesthetic. We've got actual dials here where we can turn things. So we've got an on and off switch here, which we turn. We've got a ratio selector here where we can go from 1:1, 16:9, 9:16 and 4:3. And here we've got various filter styles up here. The amount of space left on the inbuilt SD card is here and it's a dial. And on this side we've got battery level as a dial. We've got zooming levers here. We've got this really old-fashioned eye cup here. And on the front we've got a trigger and we press this trigger when we want to record. So you look through the eye cup and you hold down the trigger and then it does its recording. simple. So when I went out to record the film with the Camp Snap 8, I took along external audio because I knew it was going to be a windy day and I suspected the audio would not be very good. So in the film, you actually heard audio recorded externally. So now I'm going to show you the different modes you can use on the camera, and I'm going to show you the different film emulations as well. And when I recorded this, I exclusively used the onboard microphone from the camera. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to compare all the different film simulations. Currently I'm on standard. I'm also going to be using the onboard camera microphones only, not the external one. So now I've switched to Vintage 1. So this is Vintage 1 again. The audio is through the onboard microphone of the camera. It is a little bit windy, I apologise for that. So this is Vintage 2, this is Vintage 2 with the audio coming from the onboard camera's microphone. Now this is analog and the frame rate drops to 20, and we've got these digital noise bits that are meant to represent film grain or recreate film grain. I don't know how it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to look tacky or not, but this is on analog. Because the wind is moving this tree, quite a lot of the leaves of this tree, I thought it would be interesting to film it so we can see what motion looks like on this analog setting. And this is the final film simulation. This is black and white. This reverts back to 30 frames per second like all the other ones apart from analog. So this is black and white. Again, the LED or the eyepiece I'm looking through doesn't give me a great image, it's just good enough for framing. So I'm back in standard and I'm going to go through the different resolutions. I'm currently in 4:3. Now I'm back in 16:9 resolution. This is 1:1 resolution, and this is 9:16 resolution, which is vertical, and I've not fiddled with any of the zoom settings. The camera has always been in its widest field of view. So the camera only records in 30 frames per second unless you're using the analog film filter, which records in 20 frames per second, and it gives it a more sort of stuttered and staccato look. That does to me make it look much more retro, and I think it looks much closer to original Super 8, which is why I got it. So that's probably the mode I would film in the most. The camera sensor is 2.7K, but obviously you'll get a slightly different resolution if you're using the different filming modes like 1:1, 4:3, etc. Now to me, I think the camera is more of a toy rather than a tool, and that's okay because I have much better cameras, but I have to say I did enjoy using this camera. Now this camera costs between $150 and $200, so while it is cheap compared to other cameras, it's still quite an investment. And if you want to just get that retro look, you can actually do that by just applying filters or effects to existing footage. So you could film with your smartphone and you could buy plugins for your editing program that make it look much more retro. So here you can see I'm doing that with the iPhone footage. So I'm going to talk about what I don't like. I wouldn't zoom into this at all. You saw in the video I zoomed in and it was dreadful. So keep it on the widest setting. Do not zoom with this camera whatsoever. It doesn't come with a lens cap. So I know it's a cheap toy camera, but still it should come with a lens cap. The other thing I don't like is the eye cup. All you can use this for is double checking if you're recording, because you get an indicator light inside the eyepiece if you're recording, and for composition. You can't really tell what your footage is going to look like at all using the EVF. But my biggest complaint about this camera is it doesn't have a way to record external audio. You would have seen in the video it was windy, and you might want to take this on vacation and you might be going somewhere windy, and it just did not perform very well from an audio point of view. Most people are going to be talking as they film things and they're going to be behind the camera. The audio didn't stack up well, and I just think you can forgive bad footage, or you can forgive retro footage and 90s aesthetic footage or footage that looks like Super 8, but you can't forgive bad audio. And so I just think they should have put an external audio jack on here so that you could put another microphone on, you could get better audio. If people are using this to create memories, they want good audio, they don't want really bad audio. So I think that was something that I really can't overlook, the fact that it doesn't have an external audio jack, and it wouldn't have cost much more for Camp Snap to put that in. So that is my criticism of this camera. So I'm not going to use this all the time, but I am going to use this more than you may think I would. I did enjoy filming with it. It is quite large and this is certainly going to draw some attention from people, but I did like using it and it was fun. So for things where I'm not bothered about how it looks, or if I want it to look very retro, I'm going to use this. This will not give you perfection, but I find going for an imperfect video sometimes quite liberating. It gives you rubbish footage, but maybe that's the point of it. It gives you rubbish sound, which I don't like actually. The tactile feel, using it in a tactile way, its aesthetic is the charm of this camera. So this is not going to be for everyone. I've enjoyed using it, but it will not give you the perfect results.